So thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. I'm Teck Lee, right? I'm the talent engagement lead for Kabel, and I'll be your moderator for this afternoon. Kabel, a Tinder for jobs. We aim to connect job seekers directly to line managers, aligning shared vision, goals, and expectations. We believe that working with like-minded people, having similar values is an important first step to achieving more fulfillment at work, leading to better employee retention, as well as contributing to better performance as an individual and as an organization overall. I think it must be the lunch. Anyway, we'll take a few moments to introduce our amazing guest speakers today. Then I'll kick off the conversation by asking some questions as per the topic, which is diversity and how diversity drives innovation. Right? And then if you have any questions, as I mentioned earlier on, you just leave in the comment box or the chat box, or you can post it on the Q&A section, right? And towards the end, we will open up the floor and address some of these questions that you have. So keep it coming throughout the session. Use the chat box to interact with each other. We will try and address whatever questions that you have at appropriate timing. Okay, sounds good. So that's how the outline of the Fireside chat this afternoon. So today, I'm very fortunate to have with me two esteemed business leaders. First of all is Ahmad Bukhari, the head of HR from Shell Business Operations. Welcome, Bukhari. And I have with me the second guest, Ivan Jan, from National Sales Manager from BAT, British American Tobacco, will share about how they are embracing diversity, how their organization are embracing diversity, and what are some of the initiatives they have taken to make it part of their culture within the organization. So just a short introduction about both our speakers. So Ahmad Bukhari is currently the HR lead for Shell Business Operations Malaysia, one of the 5 global business service centers in Shell Group. He is responsible for the end-to-end HR delivery and drives the people agenda for more than 2,000 employees. With over 15 years of solid experience in the oil and gas industry across various HR areas, including HR business partner, HR expertise, on policy, rewards, change management, HR systems, ER/IR, industrial relations, as well as HR operations. Being passionate and a strong advocate for diversity and inclusion as well as talent development, Bukhari has been actively involved in a number of activities by various government agencies, which includes Pemandu and MDEC, in boosting Malaysian female talent returning to the workforce. Beyond work, Bukhari enjoys cycling, reading, and spending time with his family. Bukhari and his wife Shikin are blessed with a teenage son, Beruni. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Bukhari, correct me if I'm wrong. Who is devoted to his online games. Right. Thank you for joining us, Bukhari, this afternoon. Pleasure to have you here. And I'll go on to the next speaker. Ivan Jan is currently the National Sales Manager for British American Tobacco. He is a commercial strategist with over 15 years of solid experience in sales and marketing in the extremely challenging and regulated tobacco industry in multiple countries. So Ivan advocates for diversity in his team and believes that it not only boosts innovation, it also improves team dynamics, overall performance, as well as revenue. So it would be great to hear from you later on. Ivan, how does this pan out in your team? I'm sure the audience will be interested to get to know more about that.
Yes.
Thank you both gentlemen for being here. So to kickstart the session, I think Shell and British American Tobacco are both, I believe, and we all know, a forward organization that champion diversity and inclusiveness at its workplace, and encouraging as well as empowering their employees to take innovative approach towards a better tomorrow, as well as a more sustainable future. So to kickstart our conversation, perhaps I can get you to share. Maybe Ivan can start first. What is diversity to you? Right? Let's try and define that before we move on with the questions that we have. Yeah. What is diversity to you?
Diversity. It's a bit of a buzzword right now, but I think I just want to put a bit of context, especially for the audience here. At BAT Malaysia, we have a clear purpose, and similar to what Teck Lee mentioned about, our purpose is very much to create a better tomorrow. And what does that better tomorrow mean? It's reducing the health impact of our business across our stakeholders, whether it's society, consumers, employees, as well as shareholders, right? With that transformation in mind for BAT, one critical enabler of this purpose, one big critical enabler of this purpose is actually our employees. And here it connects back to having a diverse workforce, and it doesn't just stop at diverse, and an inclusive culture. Yeah, it's imperative to realizing this vision. I mean, these are big words, but what does diversity really mean, right? In essence, it's about collectiveness, collective capabilities of people, of ranging from different ethnicity, cultural heritage, experience, name it, so on and so on. Right? For BAT, we focus on building both internal talent and balancing with cross-industry hires, as injecting knowledge and experience through external hires, right? Are key elements required for what is as per the title of the session, diversity drives innovation, right? But I think it's not just a matter of throwing a mix of people and then automatically translate into high performance or innovation. No, it doesn't do that. Yeah, diversity is just the start of it. What requires in there is the inclusivity leadership. Yeah, a leadership style that assures all team members feel they are treated respectfully and fairly, right? And as a result of this, employees have a sense of belonging. When they feel treated, they are treated fairly and respectfully. They have a sense of belonging. They start to have a purpose, yeah, in the organization as well, and ultimately as inspired in the organization. And that's what our aspirations and visions we are driving towards for BAT, right? I think on a broad stroke, D&I isn't just about gender, ethnicity, or background or culture. I mean, certain extent people talk about age or experience or even mental health. D&I in very, very simple term is it's about you. It's about me. It's about all of us, because we are all human, right? Unique in our own ways. So how do we coexist? Probably a bit of a soft word, but how do we work together in that, where we feel valued and respected, and for our differences to be embraced as a strength altogether. So in short, I think I probably overran my timing, right, on number of words to talk about today, right? Inclusivity promotes belonging, and I tie it back to the purpose, having a sense of belonging, and lastly, a well-being altogether for not just me, not just you. It's all of us as an organization.
So
right.
thank you, Ivan, for sharing that. And I think what you mentioned about diversity is just a starting point, and then I think it's really to drive what after, right? Culture, in the practice, and the ways of working in every single employee, and coming together with all our differences that we have, whatever backgrounds we come from, our upbringing and whatnot, and working together towards a common goal. I think that's essentially what you just shared. What about you, Bukhari? What is diversity to you personally, or yeah?
Yeah, thanks, Tech. So I think first and foremost, Tech, I just want to mention that it's an honor for me to be given the opportunity to have this conversation today with you and Ivan on such an important topic. I'm really passionate when it comes to the topic of diversity. So in Shell, we believe and understand that every individual is unique and different, right? Almost similar to what Ivan mentioned. We value all the ways each and every one of us differ, because we believe that this actually creates individual perspective and also unique contribution. Now, every individual, we believe, brings something different and special to the table. These perspectives and contribution helps the organization to innovate, grow, and adapt. Now, the concept of diversity actually encompasses the concept of acceptance and respect. Now, diversity in a simple or layman way is about recognizing our individual differences, respect, and also embracing it. There's actually two types of diversity. The first diversity, we call it as inherent diversity. The second type of diversity, we call it as acquired diversity. Now, inherent diversity is what we are all born with. Yeah? So, for example, our ethnicity, our gender. If we have certain disabilities, which actually can be both inherent and also acquired. Acquired diversity is based on experience one gathered throughout his or her life experience. For example, someone who grew living in different countries, exposed to different culture, thinking style, able to speak different languages. We believe in Shell that both of these diversities are really essential. So, in Shell, when we talk about diversity, we also have to talk about inclusion because we believe these two actually goes hand in hand. Yeah? So inclusion in Shell means that, having a safe, positive and caring environment in which, our differences are understood, embraced and also valued, especially by the people that we work with in the organization. Now, the combination of an inclusive environment and a diverse workforce means that each of us can actually bring our whole self to work. So there's no need to pretend. There's no need for us to be who we are not. And this actually enables our employees to fulfill our potential and contribute to the fullest. Now, just sharing a bit on Shell, we actually have a very long history when it comes to diversity and inclusion. For example, in 1908, Shell was already advocating for women to have the right to vote, right? And they used postcards at that point of time to kind of advocate this. And this is at a time when women were not allowed or they didn't have the same right to vote in the UK. Eventually in the UK, women were given the right to vote, but it only happened in 1928, right? So that was 20 years before that, Shell was already advocating women's rights. Yeah? So I want to capture the imagination of the audience today. Now, just imagine this, right? So if in an organization, if let's say it's all the same, it's all homogeneous, then we would probably not going to have different ideas. But what diversity actually creates is it creates friction, it creates healthy tension, it creates a different point of view, a different perspective. And when those conflicting perspectives, those healthy tension, they are harnessed and they are channeled in a positive way, then that's the point where we will create innovative ideas, right? So we really believe that a diverse workforce helps create better understanding of the market and also the customer's needs.
So we have healthy tension and channel it positively. Yeah. Thank you, Clara, for sharing your thoughts. Thank you, Bukhari, for sharing that. And maybe just to get a sense from the audience attending today as well. Yeah, I'm just trying something new that I've just discovered. Okay, I'll share my screen. Hold on a second. Yeah, this is something that Bukhari mentioned to me that day, so I'm trying it on this. Let's bear with me as okay. Right, you can see my screen, right? Okay. So, right. So, what is diversity to you? So, you follow this instruction, right? Try to click on either you scan the QR code, or go to the link and enter the code, or immediately click on this link, and it will bring you to this page, basically to ask you to enter a word, right, or phrase. So you can enter a word or phrase that to describe what diversity is to you. Let's take some time, to have a go at this. Equality, all different, creative, innovative idea, different perspective, race, better tomorrow, sense of belonging, healthy tension, multicultural, different culture. Yeah, so pretty much I think, thank you for participating in this exercise. We just want to get a sense from the audience, right? What is the understanding of diversity? Because it's such a broad stroke subject, right? Everyone's interpretation of the diversity is very different, right? We come from different backgrounds, and the way we look at things are also very different. So thank you for taking part here. Go back to, in terms of the diversity, right? Going back to our topic. So why diversity? I think Bukhari mentioned that, right? People, and also Ivan, people with different backgrounds and also experience often see the same problem in different ways, right? And we look at things differently. And that's how we come up with different solutions as well. And this will increase the odds that one of those solutions perhaps may be a hit, maybe a success. In a fast-changing and competitive business environment, such responsiveness is really important and leaves company better positioned to adapt. Right, so that's what we have discovered. And also a recent study, maybe I'll just share with you a recent study from the Boston Consulting Group. Right, found that diversity increases the revenue for companies by 19%. And the study also found that diversity of the leadership team leads to more and better innovation and improved financial performance, right? So I'll share this slide just hold on. Screen. Yeah. So diverse companies produce 19% more revenue, right? This is the study from the Boston Consulting Group, right? On the left is looking at companies with below average diversity scores, whereas on the right it shows the companies with above average diversity scores and what is their average innovation revenue, as reported. So in this slide, in the same study, they also looked at the different aspects of leadership diversity that resulted in positive gains in innovation as well as revenue. For example, managers from different industries, female managers, and managers from different nation of origin, externally hired managers with a different career path. So these are some of the leadership diversity aspects that show positive gains, right, in innovation and revenue for these companies studied in the survey. And by including diversity in a company, the recruiting retention rates are more successful because it puts the company at a competitive advantage. There is also greater productivity and engagement and increased customer service. So this has all been shown also in this study by BCG, right? At the head of HR, maybe direct to Bukhari first. What does Shell do to promote diversity, right? And how do you encourage employees of all levels throughout the organization or to encourage them to embed it in their work, also measure and keep track of this as a HR practitioner?
Okay, so thank you so much, Tek. Maybe just touching a bit on the stats that you share, right? So really interesting research outcome on how diversity contributes to innovation in the corporate world. And maybe just adding to those wonderful stats, there was also a study conducted by McKinsey. The study is titled "Diversity Wins and Why Inclusion Matters." I think the study was published around 2020, which was last year. It was a study covering about 15 countries, close to 1,000 companies. And in this study, there was a question on what is the likelihood that companies in the top quartile of diversity outperforming those in the bottom quartile, from a financial perspective. And the study, also found that for companies with, gender diverse, they outperform the bottom quartile companies by 25%. And for companies that are ethnically diverse, the likelihood of them outperforming the bottom quartile is about 36%, right? So I think it supports also the findings from the BCG statistic that you shared. Yeah? Now, coming back to your question about, okay, in Shell, what do we do, right? So I mentioned earlier about Shell, we are committed to diversity and inclusion. As an organization, we put a lot and tremendous effort to increase and improve our employees' awareness and understanding on why diversity and having an inclusive workplace matters. And we approach this in a very holistic manner, right? So from the highest level of leadership all the way to the employees. What we do to ensure is we try our very best to ingrain the belief of diversity and inclusion into the DNA of the organization. So as mentioned, we start at the highest level where our CEO, our executive committee, our country leadership, they show conviction and commitment to diversity and inclusion. right? And not just through their messages and speech, but also in their action. This is what we call as visible leadership. And this visible leadership sets the tone throughout the entire organization. To prove this commitment, we actually have a Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. Now, this is a real role with a real person. What she does is, she helps develop the strategy and direction of the organization when it comes to D&I, right? And as an organization, we also publish, a D&I sustainability report on an annual basis. And this report is to communicate to our stakeholders very transparently on how the organization is actually progressing in the D&I space. We also make sure that we have diversity consideration embedded in key HR processes. So, for example, in hiring, in talent management, performance management, and many more. Yeah, and we also make sure that for our colleagues who are disabled, we have all the accessibility support so that they can thrive and they can perform well in the organization. We also have diversity as one of the key topics when it comes to new supervisor and new employees onboarding, because we believe that supervisors are responsible in activating D&I within the department and within their team. And we want to also make sure that for new employees, they are integrated into the D&I culture as soon as possible. For existing employees, we have annual refresher trainings on modules such as respect in workplace, conscious inclusion, to name a few. We also have frequent organized education and engagement sessions on diversity and inclusion. Now, these topics are facilitated not by HR, not by CEOs or leaders, but it is actually facilitated by employees themselves. These are employees who raise their hand and say, hey, I'm passionate and I want to be part of this journey and I want to contribute as a facilitator. And this becomes a very powerful message because the session is not a top-down download, but the employees can actually connect and relate with the facilitator, in terms of dilemmas, challenge, and also learn some of the best practice. We also have employee network dedicated just to diversity and inclusion, and they help organize, activities for the organization. It's not just about doing and running things in the organization. As an organization, what we do is we also apply learner mindset in terms of getting feedback from our employees. And we do it through our annual employee survey. So there's a dedicated section, a few questions on diversity and inclusion. And the purpose of this is for the organization to understand actually where we are, how we are doing, and what we can learn from this feedback. Yeah. Finally, maybe just on the measure, you mentioned about the measure. Globally, we have a long-term aspiration target of having 30% women at the senior leadership position. Bringing it closer to home, in Shell Business Operation KL, we have about 48% female in senior leadership position, 52% male. So, as a HR lead, I believe in maybe 2 years we'll reach that 50% mark. We also want to increase the percentage of local nationals in leading position. And we also want to make sure that we continuously improve on our diversity and inclusion score in our annual employee survey. So those are some of the things that we are doing in Shell in terms of trying to strengthen the culture of D&I within the organization.
Thank you, Bukhari. Very comprehensive. I think what Shell has in place. And also you mentioned about the 30% women in your management team, right? Leadership team, or for that matter. I think in Malaysia also we have the 30% Club Malaysian chapter that comes from the UK, basically a global business initiative focused on increasing the woman representation top sectors and also in the top management in the top companies in the world. And I think Malaysia recently, not too bad, I think the performance, we are one of the leading countries in ASEAN at least, right? Ahead of Singapore in terms of the percentage of women in the board of directors, about 25%. Singapore is trailing behind at 17%, right? And we are just behind Australia if you talk about Asia Pacific region, right? So, and also I have a question from Anwar over here. Perhaps I would take it on because I think it's appropriate, relevant to what Bukhari has said earlier on. Let me try and answer. Right? The question is, hi panelists, both of you are from global MNCs where diversity inclusion is already part of the corporate culture. How do we implement or start this journey or even start this conversation for SMEs, local or even Malaysian-based MNCs where many wants diversity but hard to implement it? So I suppose, yeah, the question, I see that a lot of bigger organizations, especially with Shell and also BAT, the multinationals, they are already implemented, they have started implemented and talking about diversity even many, many years ago. And they are already well supported. As you mentioned, Bukhari, you have a specific or even a specific role, yeah, for a person to champion on diversity and inclusion. So what are your thoughts on this question, or how can the, let's say, companies like the SMEs in Malaysia or local companies where they have not as good an extensive level of support from the company to drive this agenda? What would be your practical advice for them? Either Bukhari or Ivan, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah. Let me start off, and then Bukhari maybe can chip in later. Yeah, that's a very good question from Azhar, I think, right? And very real. Anwar, apologies, right? Considering that we are Malaysians here, right? And how do we have a halo effect or bring the SMEs or local companies on board with this? I think that's why it is critical for us to have these kind of sessions, right? Where Teck Lee and Camilla, reach out to many other companies, the MNCs who believe in this and who's driving this, and these sessions are sessions where it showcase why it's working, why diversity is important, right? Because Bukhari and myself would have multiple examples of why it worked. Why globally we are so committed to it, locally we are also committed to it, because there are real examples, real life examples in many scenarios where D&I really built the company for a better organization. Talk about building it for sustainability, building it for the next generation. Because again, I talk about D&I, it's not just female gender, it's not just no one particular, it's also talking about Gen Z. I mean, between the 3-4 of us, I think we're all millennials, right? I'm second guessing the age, okay? But you talk about Gen Z as well. Yeah, you talk about the Gen Z is the next one. And like it or not, Gen Zs are different, very different. I mean, no disrespect. And Bukhari has a son who is a Gen Z, he's onto online gaming and stuff like that. So we got to be cognizant, because during my generation, when I entered the workforce, it's very different expectation, and you pretty much follow the hierarchy and stuff like that. The Gen Z has very different expectation. I'm zooming into one very specific example only, right? How do we prepare them? How does a big organization prepare for this new wave of different thinkers, right? We can't bang tell them to work as per heart what we want it to be. We can't be operating like in the 1950s, 1960s, where it's, very much number of hours equals to whatever, they come in with very different thinking, very impatient, if I can choose to use that word. They're very eager. Yeah. I think back to the question, these sessions, one of these sessions like this are the one that echoes around, and it needs MNCs to take lead, and eventually, hopefully this resonates, people get the awareness, they see the value in it, and they start driving in there. They might not set a 30% or 50% target, right? To your point earlier, you said that there's this 30% club, right? That's trying to drive the representation to 30%. I think these are all organizations and people are having the awareness, and most importantly, having the appetite, because they see the value in that. And as a consequence of that, that's where it will overflow into whether it's SME or local organization, because they see it as well, right? So I think that's, in my perspective, that's my role, or my personal role, that I really want to drive this to not just BAT, not just MNC. It should be Malaysia, because I have a daughter, and I want her to be. I have a son, I have a daughter. I want them to get the opportunities that they should get. and it goes beyond. It's really preparing for the next generation.
Equal opportunity, basically. So, Bukhari,
Yeah.
what about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, what Ivan just mentioned, totally relevant, right? And granted that companies like Shell and BAT probably we are a bit more advanced in this entire journey, but for organization, let's say one of the audience organization is just about to start, the journey or at the beginning of the journey. I think number one, what you can do is raise your hand and be part of that change, right? And number one, what is really important is to help the organization, your organization, understand why diversity and inclusion is really important. Apart from the examples that have been shared by Tek in the statistics, and also the example that Ivan just shared, it goes back to the very fundamental point when we start the conversation, where we are all different in our own way, right? So for us to leverage, to embrace, and to achieve greater height, we need to be able to respect one another and embrace that difference. So that's why it's really important. So understanding the why is important. And there's so many organizations out there. For example, if let's say you can tap upon, invite them, ask them to speak to your organization, learn from their journey, and whatever best practice that you pick up from this organization, you can then adopt into your organization, right? So we're not short of resource. There's so many wonderful organizations out there that have gone through this journey. They can also help kind of to kickstart the journey for your organization as well.
Thank you very much. And that is really one of the key reasons why we have this fireside chat, really to invite the organizations who are more progressive, who have implemented some of these initiatives, and try and share their success, or try to assess some of the results that they have achieved by adopting some of these initiatives. I think that is really here for, right? And perhaps maybe personally, my suggestion to Anwar or anyone who is within the local context, I think look at the company perspective, from the perspective of the strategy that you are trying to, your company strategy, and look at what is lacking in terms of the competency or the capabilities, and from there focus on filling up those gaps, regardless of where the person is come from. You just look at the skill sets and the competencies that you are trying to basically address and overcome, right? By getting the right person to come in. I think that is already a first step in a very pragmatic way, where you can start, or not you will end up hiring always the same people with the same interests. Naturally, we are human beings, we are drawn to people with similar interests, drawn with people who have similar hobbies as us. So have some sort of objective, a more objective way of how you approach hiring, need within an organization to stay competitive, to continue driving that kind of output that you strive to be. So I think that's personally from what I can share. But very good question. Thank you, Anwar, for asking that. And Anwar also has another question. Which diversity indicators should be the priority to an organization? Is it gender, age, or race? Is there some aspect that needs more priority in an organization, or it depends? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So maybe my short answer to that is, number one, you have to understand your organization, right? Try to see what is the composition of your organization, and that would help you to understand what diversity priority that you might need to have. Yeah. So for example, if let's say you are in an organization that is all Malay, right, or all Chinese or all Indian, but you have a good mix of age, you have a good mix of background, then probably the priority is about, okay, let's look at our hiring process and say we can introduce a bit diversity in terms of the talent that we bring in, more from an ethnicity point of view, right? If your organization, let's say you have 10 people in your organization, they are all male, right? So maybe at that point of time, the priority for your organization is, bringing in some female talent into your organization. So I don't think there is, at least in my view, there is no one fixed answer to that question, but it's really about assessing and understanding your organization, your team, your company, and you can kind of develop your priority based on that.
Agreed, agreed. Ivan, what about yourself? You have any, yeah.
No, I think it's always going to be difficult on that. Where to start or what to start or which one to focus on. I think it's important to take a few steps back, put in those criteria, assess where you are as an organization. If you start realizing that you're only 2% female, or you're only 2% newcomers, then you start realizing, start asking questions. Is that what we want? Or is that good enough? Pick the matrix, because you can't be suddenly overnight and say, I want to do everything. No, that pick very specific, work on it, specific, because when you're very specific target, then you come up with 2-3 very clear action plans just to get that going. Once you're happy with those matrix or that representation, and you see the value in that, and you start looking, is there any other thing that we can build further in the organization, right? That's, I think, to the point of Bukhari, it's very much, it really dependent on where that specific organization is, right? I will be bold and put everything across, but then you can't do everything straight away. Prioritize what's the one that's really, eye-popping.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing both Bukhari and also Ivan. I think having diversity in the agenda is not something that can happen overnight. You can't see results immediately. It takes years and really a lot of effort, right? Concerted effort within the organization from different levels to come together and make it happen, right? And then you will hopefully see something, a bit of change in years to come, right? So it really takes a long view rather than a short view as a stopgap measure, So maybe I will direct a question specifically to Ivan. Being a sales leader in your organization, how do you practice this within your team, right? Within a sales team, what are some of the real examples perhaps you could share with the audience?
Yes, thanks, Teck Lee. I think we started off for the sales team here in BAT. We started off a bit of a journey. And last year, on the back end of last year, right? We look into on a talent reboot strategy, with a reflection of where we were across, again, multiple items, against our talent priorities. We raised our hand. It was apparent we need a parent step change in a few of those locations, right? Where we can really make a difference and stand out versus the industry. I'll give you an example. For instance, the tobacco industry, has a perception of being a male-dominated stigma. Today, I believe, and I think quite strongly, we are breaking that myth, particularly in the sales team. Because again, I spoke about late last year when we did the reflection on ourselves. Today, we have progressed and we have actually tripled in our female representation in trade. And that's just one of the items, right? And how do you do that? I think the next question Anwar is going to ask is, how do you do that, right? First item, I'm just anticipating Anwar's question, right? First item, awareness and education. Awareness and education. Easier said than done, right? And I think Teck Lee mentioned it's through concentrated, very persistent, consistent education and awareness with our recruiting managers, with our team, as well as external recruiters. The second item is very targeted approach, right? If it's again, I talk about prioritization. If it's female talent you're going after, you go for female talents, whether it's both internally or externally, right? Third item, enhanced talent branding. What we realize for BAT corporate, we have a good talent branding, but for sales team, we probably have not really rebooted or have not spoke about it as much as we want it to be, right? So we work on an enhanced talent branding, external comms, showcasing of what we call this Wonder Woman in BAT. I think if you look into our LinkedIn page, we start featuring a lot more about our female talents in BAT, because sometimes it's tying back to the first item, awareness and education. People realizing, oh wow, okay, and lastly, most important, and everybody needs to be sync on this. Recognize that it won't happen overnight. We spoke about it just now, right? But we are very committed with very clear milestones. Whether it's after 6 months, this is what we want. Let's say, I don't know, pick a number, 45%, 50%. Do a review on that. Is it good or not good enough? What action has been done on that? Yeah. We clear milestones, whether it's and that's just a number, but action points, whether it's conducive working environment, enhance. One of the things that we're very proud of, we reboot or relook into the entire pregnancy policy, tailored for the sales team. Yeah, because if you are pregnant and you're not doing sales, that's an issue. So don't make that an issue for our employees. Give them a solution. Give them a peace of mind that okay, the business will continue. I actually have I can play a different role during that period, because the company is supporting that. It's trying to be very conducive to enable that, right? And then as for diversity of capabilities, we talk about. I think another example is we actually revamped our sales leadership team earlier this year, after the review late last year, where 4 out of the 6 members came in this year, right? In line with the progressive vision of a better tomorrow, we actually took in a fair chance of young, very dynamic talent, as well as external talents, right? And I mean, shouldn't say mix them up, but when you put them all together, it's an array, or it's a very rich. I think Malaysia is very famous for melting pot, right? And when you start doing that, and you start shaking it up a bit, you start realizing that, oh wow, you really, as a result, I actually have a very dynamic sales leadership team in BAT Malaysia. Probably the most dynamic we've ever seen in our history for BAT Malaysia, right? One of the age, one of the criteria. I think about female representation, also one of the criteria. I mean, it's not about meeting the matrix, but when you start doing those things, you start realizing that new ideas start coming to play. Yeah. Another good example that how we talk about we practice diversity is we actually started something very, very simple. We had face-to-face sessions. This is pre MCO 3.0, where we invited female sales female members from the sales team to come together for a high tea. They were like, oh, what's going on? And tell us what's good and what's not good. What are the areas you want us to look into? Don't talk about business. It's just day to day. What's good? I mean, from simple thing like pregnancy policy, or it's not clear, it can be better. To safety in the office, or some of those blind spots that sometimes as an organization you can overlook. But that's why it's important when you talk about practicing diversity, it's including them in conversations regularly. Yeah. Unfortunately, we got interrupted by MCO 3.0, and then we did the virtual session. Yeah. Not so happening, but the energy you get from, nevertheless, the energy you get from them, because all of a sudden they engage on these things, whether it's female, whether it's newcomers, whether it's otai, otai, in case those that tahu, is the old timers, no, don't call them old timers, the experience, the guru, they get very excited to share as well. They feel like they have a sense of belonging. They feel like they are crafting something, not just business plans. So those are the few items that as a sales team, we are trying to continue to bring in that differentiation. Yeah.
Great sharing, Ivan. I think I like what you say about inclusion, right? I think inclusion is very important to make sure that voices are heard.
So yeah, I was saying that supporting and enabling, right, is very important. Yeah, if you talk about women coming more into the sales team, you have to make sure that they can carry out their roles more effectively by providing them the right level of support and have all these enablers in place, right, for that to happen. So yeah, basically that's what I wanted to say. A bit disrupted here. So any questions that we have from the panel? Let's see, from the participants. So this, okay. Okay, now my station is on again. Sorry about this. Technology, there you go. Right. So now we open up the floor, I suppose, yeah, for any questions from the audience. We took two just now from Anwar. Thank you for your question. And if there are any more questions from other participants attending the still here for the fireside chat, please post them, yeah, to the panelists. We'll be more happy to take on the question, right? So as we wait for the questions to come in, perhaps I understand that both Ivan and also Bukhari, you are the management trainee, yeah, within, you started as a management trainee in Shell, you started as a management trainee in BAT. So perhaps because we're having the virtual career fair with one of the leading universities this week. So there are students perhaps in the audience and you may want to perhaps give some advice or some pointers as they're looking for their first job or their internship placement. Anyone?
Maybe I'll try and take a stab on that. I think what is important is take every opportunity as a learning opportunity, right? So for example, if let's say you are able to join any organization, you know, whatever you experience, whatever task, whatever project that you get involved in, take that as an opportunity to learn and grow yourself, right? So, you know, believe that, you know, it's all part of the process. Sometimes you join an organization, you feel that you have capability more than what is asked of you at the point of you joining an organization. But believe that, you know, that is also part of the process and there's always something that you can learn. You know, from that process or from that task, from that experience. So probably that's my advice.
Thank you. Ivan?
Yeah, I think similar to that, fresh off the boat, shouldn't say fresh off the boat, right? Fresh off graduation, what do we do? You know, do I still follow my friends? I mean, I'm just reflecting on when I was still young. Yeah. I think most important is take chance, you know, go for it, right? I think more often than not, he or she might not exactly know what they want yet, yeah? Unless if you're already studying, you know, let's say doctor or something like that, and then it's different, you know. But if you're talking about someone who's done, because I did marketing as my degree, right? Came out looking around, you know, every company seems quite interesting, right? But most importantly, I mean, that time the portion of us will be focusing on just money. I don't think that should be your biggest indicator. When you look into the companies that you apply, look into what kind of progression they have. Yeah. I mean, look into today's LinkedIn pages. You can easily go into BAT LinkedIn and you can see who's the directors or who's the managers there, how they progress in the company, how are they as individuals. I mean, just basically looking at their profiles, you know, because a good culture, yeah, an organization that nurtures you is what you really want, because you're still young, you want to be nurtured, you want to really untap all your opportunities, your talent capabilities as soon as possible, right? And that would be my counsel, where look into organizations that actually genuinely nurture you as a talent.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I don't think we have any questions that's coming in. No more further questions, but so I think perhaps we can round this up. But thank you so much for coming on board the Fireside Chat. I think we have some good points that you have made there in terms of diversity is not solely limited to gender, right? There are many aspects of diversity that we have to look at, right? People of different backgrounds, race. I mean, the list goes on, and also from our audience, they kind of agree with that. And some practical advice as well as to how local SMEs and local organizations could start looking into how they can implement diversity, right, within their organization, even though perhaps resources is not as extensive as what Shell has or what BAT has from, in providing the kind of materials, the support that is given, right, to make sure that this becomes an important agenda to drive within the company. And ultimately, I think, yes, we are all different, right? We have our differences, we come from different background, different upbringing. I think it's about, with all these kind of differences, I think it's how we come together, as one. And now I remember what I wanted to say after Ivan's comment about melting pot. I think Malaysia has a lot of have a lot of good food, right? And it comes from all this mixing and amalgamation, of different cultures like Baba and Nyonya Peranakan. You have all those kind of, it all tastes good. Rojak, for example, as well. It's another very delicious, but I'm hungry already, maybe because of that. So hold on, I'm trying to share. So basically, we have every reasons to practice diversity. We have all the ingredient here, and I think it's important that we embrace that pretty much. So I'm just trying to share the links, right, to our Kabel website. So please follow us on Kabel for any of our upcoming events. Currently, we have a virtual career fair, which I mentioned on. So if you're looking at hiring interns or you're looking at hiring fresh grads, please make sure you join, follow us on the event. You can actually post job on Kabel app and get access to interns for free, right? So this will not cost you anything to hire an intern on our app. So please try to do that, have a go at our mobile app, as well as follow us on our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, we're on Twitter, TikTok, and whatnot. Just hold on a second. I'm just trying to share those links with you guys because my computer basically koyak already, KO already. Just hold on. Yeah, and while waiting for that to come out, thank you very much, Bukhari and Ivan again, and apologies, to the audience for this technical glitch that we are facing today. Despite the fact that we have done so many times on the Fireside Chat, we are facing for the first time so many complications. So anyway, thank you for your time. I think we cannot share. Never mind. We will share with you via email because you register to attend the event via email. So we get in touch with you and follow through with you. And the video of this recording of what's recorded of this whole event will be available on YouTube. And I'll share with you the speakers as well. And thank you so much for your time, Ivan, Bukhari. Hope we could get together again sometime in the future and discuss perhaps another topic. Yeah, great session. Great insights. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Anytime, and the honor is with us. I think happy to continue to help this drive, whether it's driving awareness in diversity or sharing what's good practices or simply just learning from one another. Right. Thank you for the opportunity, Teck Lee, and nice meeting you, Bukhari.
Yep. Same here. Feeling is mutual.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.